site of this incident. The government...
I've seen it with my own eyes! Red Grave is completely taken over!
Let us pray for mercy. This is a trial from the heavens above.
This video shows the water rushing over an 18-foot. It's from these vantage points on hills and in tall buildings that is deepest and largest, but not enough for them.
Welcome all to my humble abode. Here we seek shelter from the forces of nature that we did not comprehend and pay any attention to, which led to humanity being taken over by the forces of nature. Through education, I will teach you how to properly deal with these forces of nature, so you, as the new generation, can protect, inform, and prepare yourselves for your new future.
The planet Earth, where many living things live and inhabits the place for millions and millions of years, which is something amazing to think about. The Earth itself is something amazing to be proud of, that something like it exists since we live in it. However, where there is good, there can always be the opposite. The Earth is peaceful, but could also be dangerous enough to destroy and kill the living things, such as us humans. And for that reason, one of those dangerously surrounding topics we fall in the phenomena and hazards of the planet. Anything that goes and happens in the planet is mostly a common and natural thing to happen to the Earth, since planet develops and changes over time. So in that point, the topic that we will be discussing are the phenomena and hazards that Earth has to offer. We have three different topics that will be discussed that falls under this topic, which are natural processes, hydrometeorological phenomena and hazards, and lastly, marine coastal processes and hazards. These are the types of phenomena that appear naturally and commonly around the world, through specific times and places. Now that we have identified these three different topics, let us start understanding these topics individually. When we say natural processes, it focuses on the Earth's natural layers and land composition into one. When natural processes occur, we get something of what we can call a natural hazard or geohazard, wherein upon interaction with the Earth's layers and such can cause a dangerous hazard not only to the environment, but also affecting the living thing that is caught up in it, which then follows up to loss of life in the process. But what are the different types of hazards are there under geohazards? I think that we can all say that earthquakes are commonly feared in many places, especially in places that are very prone to such earthquakes. This hazard has had many events that has been recorded in many places due to how destructive an earthquake can be. Destroying of property, natural habitats destroyed, and even countless of deaths that has been marked for many years. Following up with earthquake, there is another type of geohazard that is also as destructive as the earthquake, and this is the tsunamis. Earthquake and tsunamis are similarly connected in the process of their action, since earthquakes are able to cause tsunamis, and which doubles up the damage and danger of the hazards. Other geohazards are landslides and volcanoes, which occur in many parts of the world, especially the landslides, where part of land would collapse and deal a massive amount of property damage in the area. Same goes with volcanoes, which mostly happen in the place of specific ring of fire, since that is where most active volcanoes are. All these geohazards are already hard enough on the world. That is why researchers and scientists think of ways and solutions to mitigate and defend ourselves to these hazards if ever it would come back. Moving on, another type of hazard that would appear are the hydrometeorological processes and hazards. From the word hydro, this would mean that it connects the bodies of waters that we have all over the world. And with that, our first hazard in the topic is cyclones, which is an intense low-pressure system which is characterized to be strong spiral winds towards the center, called the eye, in a counterclockwise flow in the northern hemisphere. Other than just a cyclone, there is also called something as the typhoon, which is a large, powerful, and violent tropical cyclone. It is a low-pressure area rotating counterclockwise and containing rising warm air that forms over warm water in the western Pacific Ocean. Next, we have the thunderstorms and tornadoes, wherein a thunderstorm is a weather condition that produces lightning and thunder, heavy rainfall from nimbus clouds. As to tornadoes on the other hand, which is described as a violent rotating column of air extending from thunderstorm to the ground. Both these phenomena are disturbances that is able to cause a mess after its process, or even worse, property damage around the local areas. Lastly are the flash floods and storm surges. And typical floods are commonly a hydrometeorological phenomena that are caused by storm surges and tsunamis along coastal lines. One way a flood is going to occur is through heavy rainfall, which is then starts to fill or flood areas. As to storm surges, this is the rise of the sea water above normal sea level over the coast generated by actions of weather elements such as cyclonic wind and atmospheric pressure. As mentioned a while ago, surges are also able to create floods along places that are near the coastlines. So these two key elements are simply connected to each other to form a dangerous hazard. Referring to the last two phenomena back at the hydrometeorological processes and hazards, notice that coastal areas are mentioned through their processes of action. Through this, marine and coastal hazards are also part of the hazards and phenomena that goes around the world. When speaking about the marine and coastal, this refers to areas that are near the sea or the coastlines, through which the hazards that are likely to occur come from the sea or the hydro elements. Hazards to most likely occur in such cases are floods, storm surges, flash floods, landslides, erosions, and so on. In cases like these, lots of risk factors occur in these situations, and to which, without any proper management and planned property damage and life loss will occur in this case. This then brings us to this part of the discussion of our topic, which is to mitigate the processes of hazards and these phenomena, which is to think of ideas and ways to prevent for the worst to come. We cannot stop these hazards from ever coming, since these are naturally occurring to the earth. The only solution for us is to build up an idea to prevent even more property damage and any more life loss that is to come. One of the biggest things to have when any of these different hazards hit is to commonly have a safety preparedness kit in cases of these ever happening, which in the end can help prolong your survival in these situations. Thinking about the risk and carefully executing these risks through certain ideas to prevent any problems. An example, through the context of the coastal phenomena, usually, flood would fill and mess up houses that too steep and eventually damages the resident, also known as property damage. With that in mind, instead of having a steep house that is built below, it is best to upgrade the house into having higher floor level, which can reduce the damage of property in the area and avoid houses to be flooded. These phenomena and hazards are natural to come in our world. It is a natural way of the earth reacting and developing, since I've said from the beginning that the earth does not stop, and so should we. That is why we must learn and have a common and general idea to what these hazards do that accumulate in the area. In conclusion, having the knowledge and common insight to how these work and how you are able to counter these different hazards will help you someday in the near future. Since learning this will be of use to you, because this is preparing you to what is to come ahead in the future. And with all that knowledge, you will be able to think properly and how you will get out of the situation safely. Think carefully, and that will be it for my vlog. Thank you.